Ronnie Flowers.
And I'm Kim Flowers.
And we are with Geometry News Network. And today we're talking about graphing quadratics and completing the square. We got some fun stuff on the menu for tonight. And actually today. And first up, we're going to let our co-anchor, Mrs. Flowers, right here, talk about some graphing quadratics. So have fun.
So we left up our dry erase board that we could use and teach from today, or explain topics to you about. So the first thing we're going to look at is graphing. All right, so graphing quadratics. And that is graphing. A quadratic is in the form ax squared plus bx plus c. All right, if you remember this, we talked about this in algebra. We're going to remember to find the vertex. It is negative b over 2a. That gives you the x value. And to get the y value, you plug in. Okay, you plug in this result. That'll give you the vertex. Okay, and then once you get your vertex, you're going to have a table of values. This is one of the ways. And I usually put my vertex in the middle of my table of values. Select values that are less 1 or less 2 or up 1 or, and up 2. Okay, so basically whatever this turns up to be. If this is 3, then you would have 2 and 1. If this was 3, then you'd be plus 1 is 4 and 5. You'll see an example of this in a little bit. All right, and then that's where you put the vertex and plot your points. The other method for graphing would be to get your vertex and then you can choose to factor. All right, and set equal to 0. This will give you your zeros, x-intercepts. You can also use the quadratic formula. So yes, we're going to hit those again because we know it's really important. When you solve for the quadratic formula, really you don't have to have the equal 0. When you do that, you're going to get your x-intercepts, your zeros, and your solutions. Again, that will plot those points and your vertex, and you're done. So this is pretty much your ideas on graphing. You also remember we talked about the a value here. And if the a value is positive, the graph will go up. If the a value is negative, the graph will go down. All right, and of course all of these concepts are review concepts from algebra, but we have to keep helping bring that back up and get it from being rusty. So at this time I'm going to go ahead and have my co-anchor come and do an example for you.
Woo! Ta-da! I'm here. Alright, so first things first, my magic eraser. Nah, I don't need to erase. You got everything you need right here. This is the instructions. Okay, I will erase.
Miss Flowers is desperately needing him to erase. Sorry, I didn't write where he could write beside it.
Alright, so don't forget the vertex. The x value is negative b over 2a. That's negative b over 2a. And you plug it into the equation to get your y value. Okay, that's the first thing you have to do. That's called the vertex. Just like that. What we want to do is we want to graph y plus 2x minus 3. No, take that back. Y equals
x squared.
X squared
plus
2x minus 3.
Alright.
So the very first thing we do is find the vertex. Negative b over 2a, that's the x value of the vertex. So on my graph, I'm going to have two different things going here. I'm going to have a graph, y and x-axis. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5, negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, just like that. Y-axis, x-axis. And we're going to have a table of values, which is what Mrs. Flowers showed you. And I like to put my vertex in the middle. X equals negative b over 2a. So x is equal to negative b over 2 times a. There's an understood 1 there. So x is equal to negative 2 over 2, which is negative 1. So the x value is negative 1. You plug it into the equation, x squared plus 2x minus 3, because that's what y is equal to. So you plug it in, 1 squared plus 2 times 1 minus 3. 1 plus 2 is 3. 3 minus 3 is 0.
Hold on, students. Does anyone see the error? Wait just a second.
All right, think about
What
it.
did he say the x value was? -1. What did he plug in? +1. Be careful. It can happen to any of us.
That's
So
exactly right.
instead,
Let's fix it.
it's going to rewrite that.
So I'll fix it. So it's -1 quantity squared, which is still +1, which is good, but 2 times a -1 is a -2, and there's a -3. By the way, I would have caught my mistake when I went over to the left to go to -2 and -3 and went over here and went 0 and 1. I would have caught my mistake. So just remember, always double check. 1 minus 2 is -1. -1 minus 3 is -4. So erase that 0. It's a -4.
Now so that we can see what we're doing.
All right. She likes it nice and pretty.
We have to be able to see what we're doing.
All right.
Okay.
So what I like to do is plot that point, -1, -4. So -1, -4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And remember, it's positive x squared plus 2x minus 3, so we know it's going to go up like that. So you're going to get a graph that's going to do this. And so you're going to plot the point, here's -1, so I'm going to go to the -2. And you plug in -2. -2 squared plus 2 times -2 minus 3. Negative times a negative is a positive. Thank you to our sponsor, Ronnie for doing that for us. Is 4 plus 2 times -2 is -4 minus 3. So 0 minus 3 is ding, 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 ding. You're correct. It's -3. So you plug in -3. And now I'm going to double check my vertex. And the way I can do that is I've got -2, -3. The other side should do the exact same thing. So if I go to 0 right here, it should end up being right there. But let's double check. So 0, you plug in 0. 0 plus 0 minus 3. Well, what do you know? You get -3. It's the same thing on both sides of your vertex. And that's one way you can check it. So 0, -3. And then I'm going to go ahead and go to -3 over here and plug it in. And handy dandy eraser. So y equals -3 squared plus 2 times a -3 minus 3. Negative times a negative is a positive. So -3 times a -3 is a +9. Don't forget that. That's very easy. Careless mistake right there. Plus a -6 minus 3. 9 plus a -6 is 3. And then 3 minus 3. There's my 0 right there. That's where it should have been. Not right there. So over on the other side, you can kind of do a little quick math here. And that's -3, 0. Guess what? You did this right. You did this right. Go ahead and plug it in. You can double check yourself. Here's 0. Here's 1. I'm going to plug in 1. But when I plug in 1, 1 squared is 1. 2 times 1 is 2. 1 plus 2 is 3. 3 minus 3 is 0. And it is what we call the word symmetric. So your graph should be symmetric about the vertex. Remember, that's your vertex, that's your vertex, and this y value right here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and that -4 on the y value is in this case your min or minimum. It's the y value. That's the minimum or the minimum. Anything else I need to remind them of?
No, that's good. I mean, yes, I want to point out that what the bottom here is called a vertex, and it either will be a max or a min.
Yep.
And in this case, it's a minimum.
And if it's going down like this then it would be a
maximum. All right. And when it asks for what is the max or what is the min, they're referring to what is the y value of the vertex. Now, this is using the table of values. You could have also went and plotted the vertex and then factored this.
Yeah, so let's factor this real
and get
quick.
the x-intercepts, and you would be done as well.
So like, let's factor x squared plus 2x minus 3. We know we want to factor our quadratics and get binomials. So x and x, -3 or 3 and 1 is your only choices. It's a minus, so we know they're going to subtract to get 2. They do. 1 and 3 subtract to get 2. The plus means the largest number gets that plus, so that's plus, and that's minus, and of course you V down to check. -1, 3x, they had to get 2x. So double check. Some of you messed up on that on the quiz, by the way. Or on this last test, So you messed up on factoring because you didn't double check yourself. But that's the factors, and if we set it equal to 0, x minus 1 equals 0, and x plus 3 equals 0, plus 1, x is equal to 1. Minus 3, x is equal to negative 3. And look at this. X equals 1 to negative 3, and x equals 1. That's where it crosses the x-axis. Sorry, the x-axis, that's where it's crossing because look at your y values. All I did was take that y and replace it with 0. And that's the reason why I see x-intercepts.
All right.
Anything
So
else?
that's it with this, okay? And by the way, I want you to know as we erase this board, you can use your graphing calculator because I know that Mr. Flowers has really emphasized all year that the right calculator for this class is this one. So I want to point out, if you go on your calculator, at the very top of your calculator on this side, there is a y equals. If you press that, and if there's anything in there, press clear, okay? Then you can type in this quadratic equation that we graphed, which would be x, which is, by the way, the x button is below the mode. It's the second button to the right and down 1. So it's on the second row and it's in the below the second one. You'll see x and t and like a circle with a line through in the end. That's your x. All right, and then we're going to go and do the squared button, which is x squared. And then we will go plus 2x, so plus 2x, and then minus 3. And then you can, after you type it in, just press the graph button. And you will see the graph. So that will help you with graphing, and we are okay with you using that. And feel free to look up other guides online if you want more help with learning how to
Let me zoom in on that real quick. Show them the table of values on that.
All right, well, here's a graph, and now I'll show you table of values. It says, if you press the second button, which is blue on a lot of calculators, and then the table is on the right above graph. So if you push the same button that you push graph, then you'll get to a table of values, and you will see on that table, right there, you see all the values that you could plot, all right? You probably want to know that you can go up and down here, up and down, okay, with these up and down buttons, and that'll help you to find a better set of values to plot.
Because we still expect you to write a table of values so that we make sure you understand what you're doing and to get those points on the graph. It's very important that you see the points on the graph.
So with the use of the graphing calculator and all your previous knowledge about how to find the vertex and using a table of values, using factoring or quadratic formula, those things that we just got reviewing, you can graph a quadratic. So in your homework, you'll have 6, I put on there 7, I think I'm going to change it, but 6 problems to graph. Okay, so you're just going to use these. Now we also feel like we need to go ahead and cover another concept today. And so that is, we're going to talk about completing the square. And so I'm going to take that one. Alright, so with completing the square, it is another way, technically, for solving. However, I would probably never use it to solve an equation unless it was required. However, completing the square today, you'll see when we're done, has its proper place, and a lot of times it's in graphing. And you'll look at that more detailed on Monday. So we're going to just get the start of it today, and then we're going to finish it on Monday. We'll be talking about these concepts we're talking about today probably the entire next week. So just keep hanging in there and let's go with it. Okay, so completing the square. Step 1. Let's talk about if I have an example. Let's say you have x squared plus, let's do 16x. And then we're going to need to add something here. Well, to me, again, I'm going to remind you of something. This is a square, and I think most of y'all would agree. I'm going to turn the square into one of those Punnett squares that you do like in science. I'm going to write down what I know. X squared usually goes in the top left box here. What can I multiply to get x squared? X times x. So I'm going to put that there. Now 16, if it's a square, this length here has to be the same as this length. So in order to split 16 so that it's the same in both spots, we take the 16 and we divide it by 2. So that means we have 8x here and 8x here. So 8x plus 8x does give us the 16. Now what do I need to add so that this is a perfect square? Well, again, look at your Punnett square here. X times what will give us 8x. And that's x times 8. 8 times x is 8x. And again, you can see the same thing here. This is 8. 8 times x is 8x. So what am I adding to make this a square? Well, what is 8 times 8? 64. 64. So here's the steps. I take the b value. Remember, this is ax squared plus bx plus c. I take the b value, I divide by 2 and square it. This is what you add. Okay? This is what you add to get a complete square. Okay, so here we go. We got x squared plus, let's say we do 20x plus what? Okay, so remember, what do? We take the b value, which is this, the b value, and divide it by 2 and square it. So we're going to take the b value, which is 20, divide it by 2, which it makes it 10, square it. We're going to be adding 100. You'll have a couple of these in your homework. Okay, so now we're going to take and use solve by completing the square. Alright, so when we solve, okay, so solve, we're going to have, let's say, x squared equals, and we have negative 4x plus 1, okay? And so here's the example. The first thing you have to do to complete a square and solve by completing the square is to move it to where you get ax squared plus bx equals c. It has to be in this form, which means when I look at this situation, right now I have negative 4x on the right side, and it needs to be on the left side with the x squared. So I'm going to, first step would be to move the 4x to the left. So x squared plus 4x equals 1. Now we're going to do that process that we started earlier. We're going to complete the square on the left side. So you're going to take the b value, which is 4, divided by 2, and square it. So 4 divided by 2 is 2, and 2 squared is 4. I'm going to add 4 to both sides, because what you do on one side, you must do on the other. Okay, now, a while ago you were doing this, and I'm now going to show you why you did that and where we're going. So we're going to take this, and let's write this as factored out, x, 2 and 2, plus and plus, equals 5 over here. Oh, this is x plus 2 times x plus 2. This is a binomial squared. You never really have to rewrite this as x plus 2. I'm okay with you taking, now that you know this is always what it's going to turn out to be, I'm okay with you realizing if that's a perfect square trinomial, it's going to be x plus 2 quantity squared. Alright, so since we are solving, the next thing you would do then is take the square root of both sides. And let me borrow a colorful marker so you can see the difference. Alright, so I'm going to take the square root of this side and the square root of the right side. Alright, the square root of x plus 2 quantity squared is just x plus 2. And it is equal to the plus or minus square root of 5. I cannot simplify this square root, so it's finished. Now we'll subtract 2 from both sides. And so the answer for this problem is x equal negative 2 plus or minus the square root of 5. This is the solving form. Now I purposely changed colors because what we're going to show you now is this is the way you solve. I'm going to take it now and show you what is the completed square form. Completed square form. Write that down right here. Completed square form. Alright, the completed square form is going to be an x plus, and I'm going to call it h squared. Just some number here. For now, we're going to call that some number, plus k, and it is usually, and you won't have to have it equals, but you could have equals y, you could have it equals 0, you could have it not equal at all. This is the form we're looking for, okay? And so if you'll notice right here, we have x plus something right here. So I'm going to take away my blue marker. Alright, so right here. Then at this point, instead of taking the square root of both sides, in order to get it into the completed square form, I am just going to take this constant, this value here, and subtract it back to the left side. So you have x plus 2 squared minus 5, subtracting 5 from both sides, minus 5, and you can say equals y if you want, it can equals whatever, but this is what they're going to be looking for, and they, on the homework, they won't even have the equals, so just literally just leave it like that. However, it technically equals y. This is the completed square form. So the idea of completing the square by solving, you get here and you just solve. To get it from here to the completed square form, you just bring everything to one side and you're done. Let's do a practice with the completed square form where there's not an equal to. All right, so here we go. So one more practice on the completed square form where there's not an equal to. All right, so some of them you'll see on the homework, they won't have an equal sign. They will have just like x squared plus 6x and then minus 5. This is a problem they may have. All right, we're looking at this situation, so we're going to take and complete the square here. However, I don't have an equal, so I don't really have to get this over on the other side because there's not one there. But we're still going to take the b value, which is 6, divided by 2, and square it. Now, if we're adding it in here, then we, at the same side, we're also going to have to take it away because now that means we have done absolutely nothing. If I add 1 and take away 1, nothing's changed. If you add 10 and take away 10, nothing's changed. If I add 9 and I take away 9, nothing has changed. So you have to actually do this. And it's as if it's on the same side of the equation, even though there's not an equation. All right, so I'm going to rewrite this. X squared plus 6x plus 9. All right, we're going to kind of keep this in mind right here. Minus 5 minus 9. Okay, so notice what, when you're looking at it here, it's clear. I added 9, I took away 9. All right, so this is a perfect square trinomial, okay? And so we're going to write it as a perfect square binomial. All right, so here we go. X plus, take the b value. Notice if you ever take in right here, 6 divided by 2 is 3. This will always turn out to be that value. Squared minus, well, what is negative 5 minus 9? That's negative 14. This again would be considered your completed square form. Okay, so at this point, this is where I'm going to stop, and I'm going to let you guys, after you watch the video, come back to us and ask questions. I hope that was helpful.